Jake Harrison stood on the bridge of the UES Leviathan and watched the stars change from streaks back to points of light. The massive human starship had just dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of an alien star system. Jake felt his heart beating fast as he looked at the view screen. Today was the day humans would meet aliens for the first time. The Leviathan was 12 kilometers long and 3 kilometers wide. It was home to 12,000 humans who had traveled from Earth to make contact with the Galactic Trade Consortium. Jake had been chosen to lead this mission because he was calm under pressure and good at talking to people. He hoped those skills would work with aliens too. Admiral Lisa Carter walked up behind Jake and put her hand on his shoulder. She was in charge of all human space forces and had worked for years to make this moment possible. Lisa had gray hair and kind eyes, but Jake knew she was tough as steel when she needed to be. "Contact in 30 minutes, Commander," Lisa said. "Are you ready for this?" Jake nodded and looked around the bridge. His crew was busy checking systems and making sure everything worked perfectly. These were good people, and Jake trusted them completely. Dr. Karen Foster sat at her science station running scans of the alien ships ahead. She was young but very smart and had studied every piece of information humans had about aliens. Henry Walsh stood near the communication station adjusting his diplomatic uniform. He would do most of the talking with the aliens since that was his job. Henry had worked as a diplomat on Earth for 20 years and spoke 12 human languages. Jake hoped alien languages would not be too different. Colonel Ryan Brooks checked the weapon systems one more time even though they were powered down. Ryan was a soldier, but he understood this was a peace mission. Still, he wanted to be ready for anything that might happen. His job was to keep everyone safe. Captain Nicole Grant commanded the Leviathan while Jake focused on the diplomatic mission. She was an excellent pilot and knew every system on the ship. Nicole had grown up on Mars and always dreamed of traveling to the stars. Now she was living that dream. "Sir, we have visual contact with the alien fleet," reported Lieutenant Commander Andrew Bell from his sensor station. "Putting it on screen now." The main screen showed a group of alien ships floating in space ahead of them. Jake counted 27 vessels of different shapes and sizes. Some looked like crystals, others were round like balls, and a few had tentacle-like extensions. They were all much smaller than the Leviathan. "My God," whispered Dr. Amanda Price from her station. "They are beautiful." Amanda studied alien cultures and had prepared for this moment her entire career. She watched the screen with wonder in her eyes. Jake opened a communication channel to the alien fleet. A universal translator that human scientists had built would help them understand each other. Jake hoped it would work correctly. "This is Commander Jake Harrison of the United Earth ship Leviathan," he said slowly and clearly. "We come in peace to meet with the Galactic Trade Consortium." There was a long pause before a reply came back. The voice sounded musical and strange, but the translator made the words clear. "Welcome, humans. I am Ambassador Veltar of the Zephyrian Republic. We have been waiting for your arrival. However, we must ask about your vessel. Our sensors indicate it is much larger than we expected." Jake looked at Lisa, who shrugged her shoulders. They had not hidden the size of their ship from anyone. "Yes, Ambassador, the Leviathan is 12 kilometers long. Is there a problem?" Another long pause followed. Jake could hear excited talking in the background of the alien transmission. Finally, Veltar spoke again. "Commander Harrison, please confirm the dimensions of your vessel. Our measurements show 12.7 kilometers in length and 3.2 kilometers in width. Is this correct?" "That is correct," Jake replied, wondering why the alien seemed so surprised. "And this is a diplomatic vessel?" Veltar asked. "Yes, it is our first contact ship. We brought scientists, diplomats, and supplies for a long mission." Jake heard what sounded like gasping from multiple alien voices. Dr. Foster looked up from her station with a confused expression. "Sir, I am reading 27 alien ships. The largest is only 400 meters long. Most are between 100 and 300 meters. Jake stared at the screen. The alien ships looked like toys compared to the Leviathan. He had assumed they were just escort vessels and that larger ships were hidden somewhere. "Commander," Veltar said, and his voice sounded shaky, "are there other human vessels in your fleet?" "No, Ambassador, just the Leviathan. We felt one ship would be best for first contact." The silence that followed lasted almost a full minute. Jake wondered if the translator had broken. Finally, a different voice came through the speakers. This one sounded like bubbling water. Human Commander, I am Depth Singer Koralesh of the Nereid Collective. We must understand something. Why did your people build such an enormous vessel for a diplomatic mission? Dr. Price leaned forward at her station. She had been studying the question for months and had theories about alien psychology. Perhaps they build smaller ships for efficiency, she said quietly to Jake. They might not understand our approach. Jake decided to be honest with the aliens. The Leviathan carries everything we need for a long mission. We have living spaces, laboratories, workshops, food production areas, and recreational facilities. We believe in being prepared. Recreational facilities? Veltar asked. In space? Yes, we have parks, lakes, sports areas, and entertainment centers. Our people need space to live comfortably. The alien chatter in the background grew louder. Jake was starting to realize that humans and aliens had very different ideas about space travel. Commander Harrison, said a new voice that sounded like clicking insects. I am Hive Speaker Buzzik of the Cathara Swarm. You say this vessel has lakes? Water lakes? Inside the ship? Yes, several small lakes and many streams. We also have forests and gardens. The clicking sound got very fast and excited. Jake looked at his crew and saw they were all listening carefully to this strange conversation. How many humans are aboard your vessel? Veltar asked. 12,000 people, Jake replied. Complete silence followed. Jake started to worry that he had said something wrong. Finally, Veltar spoke again. Commander, we welcome you to our space. However, we think there may be some cultural differences we need to discuss. Would you be willing to meet aboard one of our vessels? Jake looked at Lisa, who nodded. We would be honored, Ambassador. Marcus Webb adjusted his diplomatic uniform one more time before stepping into the alien shuttle. He was nervous but tried not to show it. As the chief human ambassador, Marcus had to make a good first impression. He had studied alien customs for months but still felt unprepared for this moment. Chief Engineer Patricia Moore stood beside him carrying a small bag of gifts from Earth. She was responsible for explaining human technology to the aliens. Patricia had worked on the Leviathan's construction and knew every bolt and wire in the massive ship. She hoped the aliens would appreciate human engineering. Dr. Stephen Clark carried his medical scanner and sample collection kit. As the mission's xenobiologist, Stephen would study alien life forms and biology. He was excited to meet beings from other worlds. Stephen had dreamed of this day since he was a child reading science fiction books. The shuttle was tiny compared to human vehicles. Marcus had to duck his head to avoid hitting the ceiling. The walls were made of some kind of crystal that glowed with soft blue light. 3 aliens waited inside the shuttle to escort them. Ambassador Veltar looked like a tall, thin human covered in silver scales. His eyes were large and purple, and he moved with flowing grace. Marcus found it easy to like him despite the strange appearance. Depth Singer Koralesh was much stranger. She looked like a cross between a person and a fish with blue-green skin and gills on her neck. Her hands had webbed fingers and her voice bubbled when she spoke. Water dripped constantly from her skin. Hive Speaker Buzzik was the most alien of all. He looked like a giant insect with 6 arms and compound eyes. His body made clicking sounds when he moved. Marcus tried not to stare but found it difficult. Welcome aboard our diplomatic shuttle, Veltar said. We apologize for the cramped conditions. This is actually our largest shuttle. Marcus looked around the tiny space. 10 humans would have trouble fitting inside. This is fine, Ambassador. We appreciate your hospitality. The shuttle docked with a Nereid ship that Koralesh said was their main diplomatic vessel. Marcus expected something impressive but was surprised by what he found. The ship's corridors were narrow and low. Every space was used efficiently with no wasted room. This is our grand ceremonial hall, Koralesh announced proudly as they entered a circular room. Marcus tried to hide his shock. The room was smaller than his cabin aboard the Leviathan. 20 humans could barely fit inside if they stood very close together. He began to understand why the aliens were so surprised by human ship sizes. It is very nice, Marcus said diplomatically. How many people can it hold? This hall can accommodate 200 of our people for important ceremonies, Koralesh replied. It is the largest gathering space in our fleet. Patricia did quick math in her head. If 200 aliens fit in this small room, they must be much smaller than humans or very good at squeezing together. She started to realize that aliens had completely different ideas about personal space. Dr. Clark set up his scanner and began taking readings with permission from the aliens. His equipment showed that the alien ship was incredibly efficient. Every system was designed to use minimum space and energy. There were no empty areas anywhere. May we ask about your ship's construction? Buzzard clicked. Our sensors indicate your vessel has large empty spaces. Are these areas damaged or incomplete? Patricia smiled and pulled out her tablet computer. She showed the aliens pictures of the Leviathan's interior. Those are recreational areas, Ambassador. Our people need space to exercise, play games, and relax. The three aliens looked at the pictures with confusion. Veltar pointed at an image of the ship's main park. This appears to be a natural environment inside your vessel. Why do you carry trees in space? For beauty and fresh air, Patricia explained. Our people are happier when they can see plants and animals. We also grow food in these areas. Koralesh bubbled excitedly. You carry living ecosystems inside your ships. How much energy does this require? Quite a lot, Patricia admitted. But we have large fusion reactors to provide power. Energy efficiency is not our main concern. The aliens exchanged looks that Marcus interpreted as shock. He was beginning to understand that these beings came from a very different background than humans. Ambassador Webb, Veltar said carefully. How large are the personal quarters for your crew members? Marcus thought about his own cabin aboard the Leviathan. It had a bedroom, sitting area, desk, and private bathroom. Each person has about 50 square meters of private space. Buzzik's clicking became very rapid and excited. 50 square meters per individual? That seems extremely wasteful. How much space do your people have? Dr. Clark asked curiously. Our crew members share sleeping areas, Koralesh explained. Each individual uses approximately 2 square meters when resting. This is sufficient for our needs. Marcus tried to imagine sleeping in a space the size of a small closet. Humans would go crazy living in such cramped conditions. He was starting to understand why the aliens thought human ships were impossibly large. Do all consortium species live in such compact spaces? Patricia asked. Of course, Veltar replied. Space is valuable and resources are limited. We design our vessels for maximum efficiency. Your approach seems very unusual. Dr. Clark made notes on his tablet about alien psychology and living requirements. This information would be valuable for future diplomatic relations. Ambassador Veltar, Marcus said, may I ask how your people view our ship? We want to understand your concerns. Veltar was quiet for a moment before answering. Commander Webb, your vessel appears to be either a massive colony ship or a weapon of war. We cannot understand why you would build something so large for a simple diplomatic mission. It is not a weapon, Marcus said quickly. We come in peace. We believe you, Koralesh bubbled, but your ship could carry millions of soldiers or destroy entire worlds. Other consortium members are worried about human intentions. Patricia realized the problem. To aliens who built small, efficient ships, the Leviathan looked like a planet killer. Humans had built it for comfort and convenience, but aliens saw it as a threat. Perhaps we should invite you aboard our ship, Marcus suggested. You could see for yourself that it is peaceful. The three aliens looked at each other nervously. Buzzard clicked quietly before speaking. We would be honored, but also somewhat frightened. Your ship is larger than our home stations. Marcus felt sad that their peaceful mission was causing fear. He made a mental note to find ways to reassure the aliens about human intentions. We understand your concerns, he said. Humans and aliens clearly have different approaches to space travel. We hope to learn from each other. Veltar smiled, which looked strange on his scaled face. That is a wise attitude, Ambassador Webb. Perhaps these differences will lead to friendship rather than fear. Captain Diana Ross stood in the Leviathan's main shuttle bay waiting for the alien delegation to arrive. She was excited to show them around the human ship. Diana had grown up on Luna Base and loved showing people new things. She hoped the aliens would appreciate human engineering and design. Chief Science Officer Peter Johnson checked his equipment one more time. He would be explaining human technology to the aliens. Peter was brilliant, but sometimes forgot that not everyone understood complex science. He promised himself to use simple words during the tour. The alien shuttle looked tiny as it flew into the Leviathan's massive bay. Diana watched through the observation windows as Ambassador Veltar, Depth Singer Koralesh, and Hive Speaker Buzik stepped out of their small craft. They stopped walking and stared up at the ceiling of the shuttle bay. Welcome aboard the Leviathan, Diana said warmly as she approached the alien visitors. I hope you will enjoy seeing our ship. Veltar continued staring upward with his mouth open. The shuttle bay was 300 meters long and 100 meters high. To him, it looked like a vast cavern carved from metal. "Captain Ross," he said slowly, "this single room is larger than our biggest diplomatic vessels." Diana looked around the bay with new eyes. She had worked here for 2 years and thought of it as normal space. "This is one of 6 shuttle bays aboard the Leviathan. We need room for cargo shuttles, passenger shuttles, and maintenance vehicles." Buzzik's clicking became very fast and excited. His compound eyes looked in all directions at once. "You have 6 chambers this size?" "Actually, 2 of the bays are even larger," Peter added helpfully. "We use those for heavy cargo and construction equipment." Koralesh made bubbling sounds that the translator interpreted as amazement. Water dripped more rapidly from her gills as she became emotional. "How many people work in this single room?" "About 30 during normal operations," Diana replied. "During busy periods, we might have 60 people working here." The aliens followed Diana through the ship's corridors. Even the hallways amazed them. The main corridors were wide enough for 6 humans to walk side by side. Artwork decorated the walls and plants grew in alcoves along the way. "Why are your corridors so large?" Veltar asked. "This seems inefficient. We need room for equipment and emergency evacuations," Diana explained. "Also, humans feel uncomfortable in tight spaces for long periods." They entered one of the ship's parks and all 3 aliens stopped walking. The ceiling stretched 50 meters above their heads. Real trees grew in soil under artificial sunlight. A stream ran through the middle of the park and emptied into a small lake. "This cannot be real." Buzzik clicked frantically. "You have a forest inside your ship?" 3 forests, actually, Peter said. "Plus 2 lakes, a river system, and several meadows. Our people need natural environments for psychological health." Koralesh walked to the edge of the lake and tested the water with her webbed hand. "This is real water. Fresh water. You carry thousands of liters of fresh water for decoration." "Not just decoration," Diana corrected. "The water systems help recycle air and provide humidity. The fish in the lake are part of our food supply. Everything has multiple purposes." Engineer Benjamin Scott joined them near the lake. He had been working on the environmental systems and wanted to meet the aliens. Benjamin was young and enthusiastic about his job. "The trees produce oxygen and remove carbon dioxide from the air," Benjamin explained. "The root systems help filter wastewater. The whole park is actually a giant life support machine." Veltar sat down heavily on a park bench. His silver scales had turned a darker color, which Diana guessed meant he was upset or confused. "We do not understand," he said quietly. "Your people live inside a small world. Our ships are machines for traveling between worlds." Dr. Michelle Adams arrived at the park to meet the delegation. She was the ship's psychologist and had studied the effects of long space voyages on human mental health. Michelle understood why humans needed large living spaces. "Ambassador Veltar," she said gently, "how long do your people spend aboard ships during space travel?" "Our longest journeys last 3 to 4 months," he replied. "We travel between established bases and colonies. Most trips are much shorter. Humans plan for journeys lasting many years," Michelle explained. "The Leviathan could travel for decades without visiting any planet. Our people must live entire lives aboard this ship." The aliens looked at each other with new understanding. Buzzik clicked thoughtfully. "You build ships as permanent homes, not temporary transportation." "Exactly," Diana said. "The ship is home for 12,000 people. They work here, sleep here, raise children here, and grow old here." They continued the tour through residential areas. The aliens were amazed by human living quarters. Each family had private rooms with real windows looking out into space. Children played in playgrounds designed specifically for ship life. "How do you afford to build something this large?" Koralesh asked. "The resources must be enormous." Peter pulled out his tablet and showed them pictures of human construction facilities. "We have automated factories in the asteroid belt. Robots mine raw materials and build ship components. The cost is high, but we can afford it." "Your entire economy supports these massive vessels," Veltar observed. "You have redesigned civilization around large ships." "In a way, yes," Diana agreed. "Humans spread out from Earth using ships like this one. We needed mobile cities to carry our civilization to new worlds." Benjamin led them to the engineering section, where they could see the ship's massive fusion reactors. The power plant alone was larger than most alien vessels. The aliens stared in wonder at the enormous machines that provided energy for the mobile city. "These reactors produce more power than our homeworlds use." Buzzik clicked in amazement. "You use them just to move one ship." "We need a lot of energy," Benjamin admitted. life support for 12,000 people, propulsion systems, manufacturing equipment, research laboratories, and recreational facilities all require power. Dr. Adams noticed that the aliens looked overwhelmed by everything they had seen. "Are you all right, Ambassador? This must be very different from your experience." Veltar stood quietly for a long moment before answering. "Dr. Adams, we are beginning to understand that humans are not like us. You think differently about space, resources, and life itself. Is that bad?" Diana asked with concern. "No," Korlesh bubbled, "but it changes everything. If humans build ships like this for normal travel, what could you build if you really tried?" Peter grinned at the question. "Would you like to see the plans for our colony ships? They are much larger than the Leviathan." All three aliens made sounds of distress. Veltar held up his hands to stop Peter from continuing. "Perhaps we should discuss that information at a later time," he said carefully. "We need time to process what we have already learned." Diana understood that the aliens were overwhelmed. "Of course, Ambassador. Would you like to rest before continuing?" "Yes, please," Veltar replied. "We need to contact our governments and report what we have discovered. This will change how the galaxy views humanity." Admiral Laura White sat in her office aboard the Leviathan reading reports from across the galaxy. News about human ship sizes had spread faster than anyone expected. Every major alien government was sending urgent messages asking for information about human capabilities. Laura had not expected such a strong reaction to what humans considered normal engineering. Captain Tony Martinez commanded the escort vessel UES Defiant, which had arrived 3 days after the first contact meeting. The Defiant was 800 meters long and carried 1,500 crew members. Humans considered it a small ship, but the aliens were treating it like a major warship. "Admiral, I am receiving requests from 17 different alien governments," reported Communications Officer Helen Gray. "They all want detailed information about human ship construction." Laura sighed and rubbed her tired eyes. She had been answering questions for days without rest. The aliens seemed to think humans were hiding some kind of military secret. They could not understand that humans simply liked building big, comfortable ships. Dr. Frank Lewis worked in the ship's sociology department studying how different cultures viewed space travel. He had been analyzing alien reactions to human technology. Frank believed the aliens came from backgrounds where resources were scarce and efficiency was essential for survival. "Admiral," Frank said as he entered Laura's office, "I think I understand why the aliens are so upset. Their entire philosophy is based on using minimum resources for maximum effect. Our approach seems wasteful and threatening to them." Commander Julie Thompson had been meeting with alien technical experts who wanted to study human engineering. She found their questions fascinating but sometimes frustrating. The aliens kept asking why humans needed so much space when smaller designs would work just as well. "They do not understand our psychology," Julie explained to Laura. "Aliens can live happily in tiny spaces for short trips. Humans need room to move around and feel free. We get sick if we feel trapped." Reports came in from alien worlds showing panic and confusion. The Zephyrian Republic had called an emergency session of their government council. The Nereid Collective was designing new ships 3 times larger than their previous vessels. The Cathera Swarm was asking if humans planned to invade their territory. General Paul Murphy arrived at the Leviathan aboard a human transport ship. He was in charge of military planning and had come to assess the diplomatic situation. Paul was worried that first contact was turning into a crisis instead of a friendship. "The aliens think we are showing off our weapons," Paul told Laura during their private meeting. "They believe the Leviathan is a demonstration of human military power." Laura felt frustrated by the misunderstanding. "We need to convince them that we are peaceful. Our ships are large because we like comfort, not because we want to threaten anyone." News reports from alien media showed fear and excitement about the human arrival. Some aliens called for immediate military preparations against the human threat. Others wanted to learn human technology and build larger ships for their own people. Commander Mary Wilson had been assigned to work with alien diplomats trying to understand human culture. She spent hours each day explaining why humans built such large ships. Mary found it difficult to describe concepts like personal space and psychological comfort to beings who had never experienced them. "Ambassador Veltar visited our recreation deck yesterday," Mary reported. "He could not understand why we have a swimming pool aboard a starship. The idea of swimming for fun instead of transportation confused him completely. Dr. Kevin Brown studied alien psychology and was working to understand their reactions. He discovered that most alien species had evolved on worlds with limited resources. Their entire culture was built around conservation and efficiency. Humans came from a rich world where resources were abundant. Earth had everything humans needed, Kevin explained to a group of alien scientists. We never learned to limit ourselves the way you did. When we went to space, we brought our abundance mentality with us. The hegemony of Thaldor sent a military fleet to observe human activities. Their ships were angular and covered with weapons. Admiral Laura White was concerned that the militaristic aliens might try to test human defenses. We are monitoring 47 Thaldor warships at the edge of the system, reported Security Chief Gary Davis. They appear to be studying our vessel from a safe distance. More human ships arrived as Earth sent reinforcements to support the diplomatic mission. Each new arrival caused fresh panic among the aliens. The cargo vessel UES Abundance was 2 kilometers long and carried supplies for the growing human presence. The research ship UES Discovery was filled with scientists eager to study alien technology. How many ships do the humans have? Ambassador Veltar asked Captain Wilson during one of their meetings. Each vessel we observe is larger than our battle cruisers. Mary tried to reassure the worried alien. These are support ships, Ambassador. We wanted to be prepared for a long diplomatic mission. Humans always bring extra supplies and equipment. The alien reaction began to split into different groups. Progressive species like the Zephyrians wanted to learn from humans and build better ships. Conservative species worried that human technology would disrupt their traditional ways of life. Military species like the Thaldor saw humans as potential enemies to be fought or conquered. Dr. Brown received reports that some alien species were beginning crash programs to develop larger spacecraft. The competition worried him because it might lead to an arms race that nobody wanted. The Kithera swarm is trying to build a ship 1 kilometer long, he told Admiral White. They have no experience with large-scale engineering and their project is failing badly. Captain Martinez aboard the Defiant had been assigned to patrol the outer system and watch for threats. He discovered that alien spy ships were trying to scan human vessels with advanced sensors. The aliens wanted to understand how human ships worked and whether they carried hidden weapons. Admiral, we have detected 17 reconnaissance drones attempting to scan the Leviathan, Martinez reported. They seem particularly interested in our power systems and structural design. Laura decided to be completely open with the aliens about human technology. She invited technical experts from every major species to tour human ships and study their construction. Laura hoped that transparency would reduce fear and suspicion. If they can see everything we do, they will understand that we are not hiding weapons, she explained to her staff. Knowledge will replace fear with understanding. The tours had mixed results. Some aliens were reassured by seeing that human ships were indeed civilian vessels focused on comfort and research. Others became even more worried when they realized how advanced human technology really was. Engineer Patricia Moore led a group of alien technicians through the Leviathan's manufacturing facilities. The ship could build almost anything it needed using raw materials and automated systems. The aliens were amazed by the capability but also frightened by its implications. You carry an entire industrial base inside your ship, observed a Nereid engineer. You could build weapons, ships, or colonies anywhere in space. Patricia nodded proudly. That is the idea. Human ships are designed to be completely self-sufficient for decades or even centuries. As reports continued to pour in from across the galaxy, Admiral White realized that humanity's entry into galactic civilization would be more complicated than anyone had expected. The simple act of showing up in large, comfortable ships had changed how every species viewed space travel, technology, and their place in the universe. Captain Mary Wilson stood on the observation deck of the new human space station, watching alien ships arrive for the dedication ceremony. The station was called Unity Base, and it was 5 kilometers wide and 15 kilometers long. To Mary, it looked like a small city floating in space. To the aliens, it looked like something from their wildest dreams or worst nightmares. 6 months had passed since first contact and everything had changed. The Galactic Trade Consortium had voted to accept humans as full members rather than junior partners. Several alien species had started their own programs to build larger ships. The galaxy was adapting to the reality that humans thought very differently about space engineering. General Paul Murphy had established the Human Consortium Technical. exchange program with alien governments across the galaxy. Hundreds of alien students were now studying at human engineering schools. Human teachers were working on alien worlds to share knowledge about large-scale construction and life support systems. Commander Julie Thompson supervised the exchange program from her office on Unity Base. She had been amazed by how quickly some alien species learned human techniques. The Zephyrians were particularly good students and had already launched their first kilometer-long research vessel. The Zephyrian ship Harmony completed its maiden voyage yesterday, Julie reported to General Murphy. Their crew reported that having private quarters and recreational areas improved their mental health significantly. During the 6-month journey, Dr. Helen Gray had become something of a celebrity among alien scientists. Her research papers on human psychology and space requirements were being translated into dozens of alien languages. Universities across the galaxy were teaching courses on human engineering philosophy. The key insight, Helen explained to a group of alien reporters, is that humans are not more advanced than other species. We simply had different evolutionary pressures. Earth was a rich world, so we never learned to be as efficient as you. Our wastefulness became an advantage in space. Admiral Gary Davis commanded Unity Base and was responsible for its massive construction project. The station had been built in only 4 months using human automated construction systems. Every day, alien engineers came to study how humans could build so quickly and efficiently on such a large scale. The station featured everything humans needed for comfortable long-term living. There were parks, lakes, shopping areas, schools, hospitals, and entertainment centers. 50,000 humans could live on Unity Base indefinitely. The aliens found this concept both fascinating and disturbing. "Why do you build permanent homes in space?" asked Engineer Buzik during one of his visits. "Why not just use efficient transportation between planetary bases?" Gary tried to explain the human perspective. "Space is not empty to us. It is a place where people can live and work and raise families. We do not see space travel as going between worlds. We see it as expanding into a larger home." Not all reactions to human expansion were positive. The hegemony of Thaldor had been building their own massive warships in response to the human presence. Their ships were ugly and covered with weapons, but they were 3 times larger than anything the Thaldor had built before. Warlord Krestoth of the Thaldor had publicly declared that humans were a threat to galactic stability. His fleets patrolled the borders of human space looking for signs of military expansion. Intelligence reports suggested the Thaldor were planning some kind of aggressive action. "We are monitoring 63 Thaldor warships in the Rigel sector," reported Captain Tony Martinez from the patrol ship UES Defiant. Their largest vessel appears to be nearly 2 kilometers long and heavily armed. Dr. Kevin Brown had been studying the Thaldor reaction and was worried about the implications. The militaristic aliens seemed to believe that bigger ships automatically meant better weapons. They did not understand that human ships were large because humans liked comfort and space. "The Thaldor are trapped in military thinking," Kevin explained to Admiral Davis. "They cannot imagine any reason to build large ships except to carry more weapons. Our peaceful intentions do not make sense to them." Meanwhile, other alien species were embracing human concepts with enthusiasm. The Nereid Collective had started construction on underwater cities that used human life support technology. The Cathera Swarm was building ships with individual quarters for their workers, instead of communal sleeping areas. Ambassador Marcus Webb had been traveling between alien worlds explaining human culture and intentions. He found that younger aliens were much more interested in human ideas than older generations. Many alien students wanted to visit human space and see the large ships for themselves. "The generational divide is fascinating," Marcus reported from the Zephyrian capital. "Young aliens see human ships as symbols of freedom and possibility. Older aliens see them as wasteful and dangerous." Commander Andrew Bell had been working with alien engineers to help them design their own large vessels. He discovered that many species had the technical knowledge to build bigger ships but lacked the cultural framework to understand why they would want to. "The Nereid engineers are brilliant," Andrew told his colleagues. "They can solve any technical problem we give them, but they struggle with questions like how much space a person needs to be happy or why someone would want a private room." Trade between humans and aliens had grown rapidly as both sides discovered they had things the other wanted. Aliens were eager to buy human life support technology, recreational equipment, and automated manufacturing systems. Humans wanted alien art, music, and scientific knowledge. Dr. Amanda Price had established the first interspecies cultural center on Unity Base. The facility featured museums, performance spaces, and research libraries where humans and aliens could learn about each other's civilizations. Understanding leads to friendship, Amanda often said. When aliens see that humans value beauty, comfort, and happiness over military power, their fears begin to fade. The Galactic Trade Consortium had voted to adopt some human standards for long-distance space travel. New regulations required ships on journeys longer than 6 months to provide minimum space and recreational facilities for crew mental health. Many alien species grumbled about the requirements but admitted they were probably necessary. Captain Nicole Grant commanded the newest human vessel, the UES Horizon, which was 20 kilometers long and designed as a mobile research university. The ship carried 10,000 scientists, students, and support staff on missions to study distant star systems. Aliens called it a flying world. The Horizon represents the future of human space exploration, Nicole explained to a gathering of alien dignitaries. We are not just visiting space. We are making space our permanent home. As the dedication ceremony for Unity Base began, representatives from 47 alien species gathered in the station's main auditorium. The room was designed in human style with high ceilings, comfortable seating, and large windows showing the stars outside. Ambassador Veltar gave a speech representing the Galactic Trade Consortium. His silver scales had developed new patterns that human xenobiologists said indicated deep emotional changes. 6 months ago, we thought we knew the limits of space engineering, Veltar said. Humans have shown us that our limits existed only in our minds. They have given us permission to dream of bigger possibilities. Admiral Laura White concluded the ceremony with a promise that humans would share their knowledge freely with any species interested in learning. She also promised that human expansion would always be peaceful, and that human ships would serve as protectors and helpers rather than conquerors. The galaxy is large enough for all of us, Laura said. Humans do not seek to replace other civilizations. We seek to add our voice to the great conversation of intelligent species, working together among the stars. As the ceremony ended and alien delegates toured Unity Base, Mary Wilson looked out at the stars and smiled. The galaxy had been shocked by human ship sizes, but shock was giving way to curiosity, learning, and friendship. The future looked bright for everyone willing to think bigger about what was possible in the vast ocean of space.